guys, welcome to another Into the Void Real review. This time we're reviewing the Terrifier series, which I just watched about a couple of weeks back. I've been mulling over in my brain about putting a review out on this. I feel like I needed a break from reviewing movies, and I'm not gonna even lie. I wanted to take some time from my other hobby and play some games, as in video games. I love movies, but I needed a bit of a reset. Now that I'm ready to again talk movies, I thought what better series to talk about than the Terrifier series. Surely you've heard of this psychotic killer named
Art the Clown!
the one who does all these grisly kills, the clown that has managed to make Terrifier 3 a moneymaker more lucrative than that other movie with that other psychotic clown known as none other than the Joker. When I heard about this series through several avenues such as other reviews and various podcasts, I became intrigued. I ended up watching all 3 Terrifier movies in the span of 4 days. The first 2 on Amazon and the third one in the theater. Let me just tell you that right off the bat, that I don't get shocked anymore by horror films. However, these movies managed to shock me with all the kills you see over the entirety of the trilogy. Never have I felt a certain kind of stress in other movies like I have experienced in these ones. It's funny because I had watched Smile 2 before these movies and I thought that was gory. I hadn't seen anything yet until I was introduced to the enigma that is Art the Clown. If anything, I've never felt the feelings that I've felt when watching these films since the original Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a certain charisma that Art shares with Freddy Krueger that I can appreciate. Now, I haven't even got into whether I like the Terrifier series or not, and clearly, I would put this as close to what I would call a guilty pleasure of mine as a viewer of this certain kind of film. I'm not a big fan of slasher films, but this one pushes the envelope just enough to make me really appreciate how these kinds of films can resonate if constructed the right way. For me, the Terrifier movies work because they have a great villain that is multifaceted. Art's not only terrifying, but he's funny.
You're really weird, you know that?
I believe him. About what?
Every time he's on the screen, I'm entertained. Remember, Freddy Krueger was much the same. He wasn't just scary, he also had a sort of humor quotient embedded within his character that made him more than one-dimensional.
This, bitch!
Humor and horror are both equally hard to pull off in modern cinema these days. When a movie can pull off both, people are bound to notice. That is what I think the Terrifier series does well. I think that's why overall I do like this series and why it works for me. It's not just a kill fest with no substance. Now, let's talk about how this series has evolved over time. Terrifier 1 is just a straight up kill movie with no real storyline to back it up. It's all about the kills and nothing else. And you would think that hurts the movie, but to be honest, it's carried by the performance of Art the Clown by David Howard Thornton, who kills his victims in several gruesome ways. It's not just these kills that elevate the movie, but it's the way he does it. When Art kills, he does it with a gleeful depiction, pantomiming his way through, without speaking. In fact, Art doesn't speak throughout all 3 movies. A spoiler, if you want to call it a spoiler. It's just Art's signature characteristics that make him stand out from other murderers like Jason, Freddy Krueger, and Michael Myers. Yes, most of those killers don't speak either, but they don't articulate the way Art does. And none of these guys are funny save Freddy Krueger. Pair that with some unparalleled body torture, such as one that still stands out to me in which a woman is sawed from crotch to head while hanging upside down naked. If that sort of thing turns you off from the get-go, you should stop watching. It only gets worse as the series goes on. In fact, I want to say the third one is the goriest of the bunch. It boggled my mind when I saw people leaving the theater during it because I was like, didn't you know what you signed up for back in the first one? I mean, I have to believe these people watched the other 2 before the first one. I mean, who goes and watches the third movie in a trilogy before watching the previous ones? Anyway, the thing you have to know is that Terrifier 1 is all killer and no filler. And when I say no filler, that means there's no backstory whatsoever. Terrifier 2, on the other hand, starts introducing lore along with the hero in the vein of a young girl named Sienna, played by Lauren Lavera, who's targeted by Art along with their little brother Jonathan, played by Elliot Fulham. Interestingly enough, this movie is set during Halloween, and the third one's set during Christmas. Any correlation, I wonder? You learn about Sienna's deceased father, who was a prolific comic artist. He bestows a sword that has magic powers to her that becomes a sort of mystical item important to the series. Things that can occur do become a little far-fetched when this element gets introduced in the mix. Is this the sword that's meant to slay the proverbial dragon as Art the Clown?
You shall not pass!
And that's about the only lore you get from Terrifier 2. There's also some spooky dead girl that only Art can see and communicate with that is introduced in the second one. I wasn't sure if this was possibly a former victim of his. That part isn't really explained, or either I wasn't savvy enough to catch any explanation that was somewhere in the film that I might have missed. Coincidentally, she doesn't show up in the third film. Instead, the third one tends to focus on a disfigured lady who was introduced in the first one as one of Art's first victims. She helps Art in his journey to find Sienna and steal her soul or spirit or something. That part's not clear in my mind, and this is where things get muddled up for the franchise as a whole. Amid even more horrific kills and dismemberments, the third one seems to suggest that Art is a demon of some sort. The third one you would think would explain stuff that was set up in the second one, but you will be disappointed on that front. What you won't be disappointed in is the plethora of inventive and squeamishly disgusting kills that are introduced in Terrifier 3. It takes a lot to make me squirm, but one particular scene in which rats are crammed down a person's throat through a tube using heat as a main conduit was able to do just that, and then some. Many people will probably dismiss all things Terrifier due to its penchant for its shock value alone, but I feel there's something more here if it can just stick the landing on what the overall story is about. I can see the novelty wearing off over time when the eventual fourth Terrifier comes out with even a fifth one on the horizon, according to writer and director Damien Leone, to finish out the story. For now, I'm all in. After all, like I said, this franchise has become a guilty pleasure of mine. Let's just see if it can stick the landing when all is said and done. Guys, I'm giving the Terrifier franchise an 8 out of 10. How do you feel about the franchise as a whole? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, like the video and consider subscribing if you want more of this content. It's been a pleasure putting this video out, and I will see you the next time when we venture into the void.